This is an ad by Regain Couples Therapy and features real testimonials.
This was our first time trying therapy, and honestly, it was long overdue. Looking back, we just wish we had started sooner.
Regain's qualified therapists help couples when they can't get there on their own.
We thought it was intimacy issues, but Andrea helped us uncover a deeper root cause we hadn't even realized was there.
Visit regain.com/couplespod to get 10% off your first month. Regain, couples therapy that works.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
A warmer for the low. Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. We've got an excellent podcast for you as we're going to be joined in segment number 2 by one of our good friends, Matt Josephs, aka Mid-Major Matt. We're going to be chatting with him a little bit about what we saw in the first half of the season, some of his expectations for the second half of the season, and additionally, we're going to be diving in with regards to Home Run Derby and the All-Star Game if he has any sort of handicapping angles with either of those festivities. In the final segment, going to get you guys picks and analysis on the Home Run Derby as we touch them all. They certainly are going to be touching them all out there at Truist Park. And if you do have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one of two ways to be able to fire those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind the letters CM, they mean does not matter. So as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. And the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. While I did not get in any Twitter/X questions, everything is powered by EdgeBoost. Over at EdgeBoost, they're taking care of everything with regards to your sports betting needs, as all gambling transactions, they're going to be approved 100% of the time. When you go to edgeboost.bet, make sure you utilize that promo code of Greg, G-R-E-G. That's a dollar for dollar match on your first deposit up to $25. You earn cash back rewards as you utilize EdgeBoost as well. And now let's take a look back at everything that we did see in baseball on Sunday prior to a really good All-Star break. Try to find some trends and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
Going into the break, the top over team in all baseball is the Seattle Mariners, as for the Mariners, they do persevere and they get the job done against the Detroit Tigers. This by a count of 8-4 for Logan Gilbert. Went out there and he lent a relatively solid start. 2 earned runs allowed in 5 1/3 innings. Cal Raleigh did have his first error of the season in this start, but from there, Casey Lugumina gives up a run in 2/3 of an inning. Gabe Speier does give up a solo home run in his inning work, as you did have Riley Green to get his 24th home run of the campaign, and Captain Jack Flaherty, he gives up a pair of solo home runs. As going deep for the Seattle Mariners in this one was a lot of guys, actually not Cal Raleigh, but you did have home run number 17 of the season for Randy Rosarena and Julio Rodriguez. 14th home run of the season. You were able to get home run number 2 of the campaign for Cole Young. That came a little bit later on in the game off of Tommy Kahnle. Tommy Kahnle also gives one up to Ode Palenko. 15th home run season. Mitch Garver, 5th home run of the campaign. That comes off of Tyler Holden. Holden gives up 1 run over the course of his 2 innings, a solo bomb. And for Flaherty, though, he gave up 2 home runs. They were both solo shots in his 5 innings. Well, Vest gives up a run in an inning. Tommy Kahnle, he gets nuts out of the bullpen. He gives up 3 runs, all of which were earned, including 2 bombs, before Brendan Hennepy gives up an unearned run out of the bullpen. And in his inning work, and for the St. Louis Cardinals, they've also been quite a good over team thus far this season. And they get the job done in the latest game prior to the All-Star break due to rain by a count of 5-4. You had north of a 2.5-hour rain delay in this one. And for the Atlanta Braves, it was Davis Daniel who got the start. And he wasn't bad. He gave up 1 run over the course of 4 innings. And then the rain came, and they brought in Jesse Chavez, who gave up 4 runs over the course of his 2 innings, as Jose Fermin gets his first home run of the campaign. You then had 2 scoreless innings from Wander Isuero. This guy sucks. Congratulations to Wander Isuero. This guy sucks. And for the St. Louis Cardinals, Sonny Gray, he goes for 3 innings, gives up 1 run, and from there the bullpen did their part. Garrison Garcifo, he gives up 1 run in 1 2/3 innings. Riley O'Brien, 5 outs out of the bullpen, scoreless. Stephen Matz, 2 runs, 1 of which was earned, given up in his 1 2/3 innings. And Ryan Helsley was able to come in, lock it down for a scoreless inning for the LA Dodgers. They've been a solid over team thus far this season, but this was an under for them, 5-2. They take down the San Francisco Giants. For Yoshinobu Yamamoto, a really good start of 7 scoreless innings. From there, Alex Vesia, a scoreless inning with 3 strikeouts, but Tanner Scott does allow 2 runs in the 9th inning to force 10th and 11th innings, as Luis Matos took him deep. 5th home run of the campaign, and Robbie Ray set it Parade to giving up just 2 runs in his 6 innings, as he was taken deep by Miguel Rojas. 5th home run of the campaign. campaign. Ryan Walker, Randy Rodriguez, Camilo Duvall, Joey Lucchese all in scoreless innings, but then Spencer Bivens in the 11th inning. 3 runs, 2 of which weren't given up in his inning, and Drake Dreyer along with Ben Casparis, they were able to combine for 2 scoreless innings. You were able to have the Sacramento A's, who have been playing quite a few overs thus far this season, get an over and a win over the Blue Jays. This by a count of 6-3 as Jose Barrios gives up 4 runs over the course of his 3 innings, including a pair of bombs, as you had Mr. Austin Wins get his 6th home run of the campaign, and Tyler Soderstrom his 18th home run of the season. Nick Kurtz from there, home run number 17 of the year. Jeffrey Springs does give up 3 runs in 6 2/3 innings before Justin Sterner gives you an out of the bullpen scoreless. Sean Newcomb, Mason Miller, they both turned scoreless innings, and for Toronto, you had a bunch of guys. Chris Bassett, Brandon Little, Uriel Rodriguez, and Tommy Nance lend a scoreless inning. You had Justin Brule give up a solo home run in the bullpen out of his 3rd of an inning, as Brayden Fisher was able to give you a pair of outs out of the bullpen as well. And going deep off of Mr. Brule was Nick Kurtz for home run number 17 of the campaign. And you were able to get a lot of scoreless innings from the Milwaukee Brewers, who they dispatched the Washington Nationals. This by a count of 8-1 as for Washington. Yeah, Jake Irvin give up 300 runs over the course of 5 innings, and then the bullpen happened. Luis Garcia, Mason Thompson, both lend a scoreless inning, but you had from there a run given up in 2/3 of an inning by Andre Alera and Jackson Rutledge. Pair of bombs given up, 4 runs in a 1/3 of an inning, as going deep for the Milwaukee Brewers. Bryce Trang, 6th home run in the campaign. Jackson Trio, 16th home run in the campaign. Freddie Peralta, he gives up 1 run in 6 2/3 innings. Grant Anderson, along with Easton McGee, lend a scoreless inning, and Jared Koenig, he was able to give you an out of the bullpen scoreless as well, and you were able to have the Kansas City Royals get a win over the New York Mets by a count 3-2, as the Royals have really become an under team, best under team in all of baseball. 37 overs, 59 unders, and a push. And for the Metropolitans, it is Clay Holmes giving up 2 runs in 5 innings, and Sean Manaea, he gives up 1 run in 3 1/3 innings. And when it comes to the Kansas City Royals, you had Noah Cameron go 6 2/3 innings scoreless. Carlos Aceves does give up 2 runs in an inning, so that did force things into the bottom of anything. But John Schreiber and out of the bullpen scoreless, and Luke Sursage was able to give you a scoreless inning as well. And the Texas Rangers have been the top under team in all of baseball. This was an under, but they also get the job done. 5-1, they take down the Houston Astros, as for Nathan Eovaldi, a really stellar start. 1 run allowed in 7 2/3 innings. That was off of a solo home run to Zach Short, his first home run of the campaign. And Hunter Brown, bit of regression here. 4 runs allowed in 5 innings, including a home run to Adolis Garcia, 13th home run season. Marcus Semien then goes deep off Caleb Ort for his 12th home run season. Ort, 2/3 of an inning, lost that solo home run. Hector Neris, Colton Gordon, both on a scoreless inning, and Stephen Okert, he was able to give you 4 outs out of the bullpen scoreless, and Sean Armstrong, 4 outs out of the bullpen scoreless on the Walker Texas Rangers side of things. Pittsburgh Pirates have had a tough time scoring, but even with their tough scoring woes, the Twins had an even rougher time of it on Sunday, 2-1. Pirates get the job done as Simeon Woods Richardson gives up a home run in 4 2/3 innings. Tommy Pham, solo shot, 4th home run of the campaign. And then from there, Louis Varland, 4 outside the bullpen scoreless. Brock and Roll Stewart, Griffin Jacks, both on his scoreless inning, and Yohan Duran does give up a run in his inning work. And for the Pirates, Mitch Keller just 1 run allowed in 6 innings. Caleb Ferguson, David Benar, and Dennis Santana, they're all able to give you a scoreless inning. And for the Cleveland Guardians, they find a way to persevere in extra innings. 6-5, they get the job done over the White Sox in 10 innings. Joey Cantillo went out there for 5 1/3 innings and had a rough start. Gave up 4 runs, all of which were earned, including a pair of home runs. Going deep for the White Sox, Ender Benintendi, 11th home run of the season. Austin Slater is 4th, and for Aaron Savali, 5 2/3 innings. He allows 4 runs, all of which were earned, including a bomb of his own to Kyle Manzardo, 15th home run of the campaign. From there, both bullpens were pretty solid, as Dan Altavia, 4 outside the bullpen scoreless. Brandon Eisert, he comes in extra innings, gives up an unearned run, as winning it for Cleveland. You had Stephen Kwan get a sacrifice fly in the 10th inning, and Grant Taylor, he does give up a run in his 2 innings of work. Meanwhile, for the Cleveland Guardians, you were able to have Cade Smith come in for an inning, give up a run, but Jacob Junis, a scoreless inning. Matthew Fessa, pair of outside the bullpen scoreless, and Emmanuel Clase, he's able to give you scoreless 9th and 10th innings to be able to polish that one off. For the New York Yankees, back-to-back days of not scoring 5+ runs, unlike what we had seen in the previous 11 games. 4-1, the Cubs do find a way to persevere and get the job done, as Shota Imanaga gives up a solo home run in his 7 innings of work. Giancarlo Stanton, 4th home run season. Will Warren, 2 runs allowed in 5 1/3 innings, including a home run. Going deep for the Chicago Cubs, it was Michael Busch, his 19th home run season, and you had Dansby Swanson get his 16th of the season for Ian Hamilton. Hamilton gives up 1 run in 2/3 of an inning. Tim Hill, 2/3 of an inning, giving up a run. Luke Weaver, 4 outside the bullpen scoreless, and Devin Williams, a scoreless inning of his own. Meanwhile, Drew Pomeranz and Daniel Palencia both led a scoreless inning. For the Miami Marlins, they completely land-based the Baltimore Orioles, this by a count of 11-1 as Eri Perez, magnificent, 7 scoreless innings. You had from there Calvin Fauché, give up a run in an inning, and Josh Simpson, he comes in, holds down the 4th for a scoreless inning. Meanwhile, for the Marlins, you had 3 home runs from Kyle Sowers, home runs number 17, 18, and 19 of the campaign, and Mr. Abel Lopez, the 11th home run of the campaign, as Brandon Young gives up all 4 of them, 7 runs in total allowed in 4 1/3 innings. Yunier Cano, don't you know he gave up 3 runs in his inning work. You had Grant Wolfram come in for 5 outs of the bullpen, scoreless. Andrew Kittredge, a scoreless inning. And Colin Selby, he was able to come in, and he led a scoreless inning. For the Colorado Rockies, another multi-run loss for them. 4-2, they lose the Colorado Rockies as Austin Gomber does get Gombered up. 3 runs, 2 of which were in 4 1/3 innings, including a home run. Going deep for the Cincinnati Reds, TJ Friedel, his 9th home run of the campaign. Nick Martinez, 2 runs allowed in 5 1/3 innings. Scott Barlow, Tony Santillan, Emilio Pagan, all in a scoreless inning. Graham Ashcraft, a pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless. And for Jimmy Harrigan, 5 outs out of the bullpen scoreless. Tyler Kinley, a scoreless inning. And Zach Agnos, he comes in, he allows a run in his inning work. And you also had the Tampa Bay Rays find a way to not get the job done against the Boston Red Sox. 4-1 the final as Brian Bale has been very good recently for Boston, and he had another nice start, giving up a 1 run in 6 1/3 innings. Garrett Woodlock, Aroldis Chapman both led a scoreless inning, and you had Justin Wilson give you a pair of outside the bullpen scoreless. Zidane Rafaela, 14th home run of the campaign off of Ryan Pepiot, who gives up 4 runs, 3 of which were earned in his 6 innings, and Ian Seymour, he goes for 2 scoreless innings. And if you're taking a look at trend-wise, what we're getting in Major League Baseball right now, it has been quite a bit of an underwhelming season thus far, but if you look at the last 7 days in Major League Baseball, it's been pretty even, Steven. 46 overs to 47 unders. Meanwhile, favorites 54 and 41 on the money line for 56.8%. Much of what we've seen this season, favorites are hitting at about a 57.8% hit rate, 828 and 604 on the money line. Meanwhile, overall, the under rate is 52.6%, 732 unders, 659 overs. So that's what we're seeing in baseball right now, and that's what we've gotten trend-wise here in the first half of the season. Now let's talk about what we might be seeing in the second half of the season with regards to the NL East race. Let's take a look at what we're getting in terms of home run derby and so much more with our good friend Matt Joseph, aka Mid-Major Matt, right here on the Baseball Betting Show. Myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the Decent Family Podcast.
This is an ad by Regain Couples Therapy and features real testimonials.
This was our first time trying therapy, and honestly, it was long overdue. Looking back, we just wish we had started sooner.
Regain's qualified therapists help couples when they can't get there on their own.
We thought it was intimacy issues, but Andrea helped us uncover a deeper root cause we hadn't even realized was there.
Visit regain.com/couplespod to get 10% off your first month. Regain, couples therapy that works.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the Visa Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by this man, as we've got Mid-Major Matt aboard. He does such great work over at ESPN Radio out in Richmond with the show Border to Border. On top of that, he's doing a great job with the Prop Queen website /podcast. Take a look at all things baseball, and I know he's getting set for a great college football season as well. You're able to follow him on Twitter /X at Mid-Major Matt all together. And Matt, it's great to get you aboard. Thank you.
It's always good to be on. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining me, Matt. And Matt, we hit the All-Star break now, and first things first, is there any value to be had on betting the All-Star game or the Home Run Derby that's coming up on Monday?
So I usually put like 1 or 2 small wagers down on the Home Run Derby. Usually I like to, I always laugh because there's people out there who do the research and everything, and I think that's great. And then there's other people like, well, I'm a Home Run Derby expert. I know, like, it's really hard to be an expert in something as trivial as this. Anything can happen. We know nothing about the guys throwing the pitches to these guys. The one thing I kind of usually like to do is play the guy who is home. So I might play some sort of Matt Olson early on, maybe to move it on to the second round, something like that. Because usually, it's nice to be home in front of your crowd. You've got the extra energy and things like that. I play 1 or 2 sprinkle bets for the Home Run Derby. And then the All-Star game, I usually like to play, a first inning no runs or like a first 3 under sort of thing. As we get closer to the event, the managers tend to say, well, here's what I'm going to do first. Well, Paul Skeens is going to pitch, and then the second inning is going to be this guy, and the third inning is going to be this guy. So if I kind of get an idea as to how the pitching order is going to go, I usually think it's harder to score early on, especially with the better pitchers. I would imagine that Paul Skeens and and Tarek Skubal will have a no-run first inning. But I kind of like to wait and see what the managers say in terms of who's going to pitch second, who's going to pitch third, and stuff like that. So I do enjoy betting on the All-Star game. It's kind of like the Army-Navy over-under. You know how it always used to be an under, and then they keep lowering and lowering the total. Well, I see the total for the All-Star game is pretty low as it is already, but I still think early on it could go even lower because of how good the pitchers will be early on.
Yep, absolutely. I think that that's so well said by you in terms of taking a look at the overall pitching, because I think the biggest crapshoot out of it all is what you're going to be able to get in terms of batters themselves. And you know that these are all-star batters, but typically you get like one turn through the order for all those guys, and then they come out, and then it's anyone's guess as who's going to be coming to the plate, and that makes it much more difficult to be able to gauge runs.
Yeah, exactly. And I always say this, it's important to listen to what the managers say. They give some information for the All-Star game. They don't necessarily give all of it out, and that's why, the most you can deal with, as I said, if the manager says it's Paul Skeens and then it's Zach Wheeler, I know he said Zach Wheeler's not pitching, but if we know the first three innings are going to be the first three pitchers, then we kind of have an idea. All right, the really good stuff. I'm going to kind of be a little bit worried about Mizorowski, early on, if he has a little bit too much excitement and things like that. Maybe he's a little bit wild, so maybe I want to kind of stay away from his inning. I do think it's interesting that he got in. I get it, because baseball is trying to market the sport. I would have liked to have seen Christopher Sanchez or Ranger Suarez, but both turned down, didn't want to pitch in the event. But I might be a little worried that he could be a little wild and a little jacked up for the whole thing.
Yep, I do fear that as well. Like with Jacob Mizorowski, he's made 5 career MLB starts, and now he's going to be in an All-Star game. You just don't see that very often, as Matt Josephs, a.k.a. Mid-Major Matt, is going to be joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show. And Matt, certainly it's been a very interesting first half of the season in baseball. I'm not going to talk any further about the All-Star game because at this point it's a little bit of a crapshoot, but that said, it does feel like with regards to some of these playoff races, it's a little bit of a crapshoot as well. And what do you make out of the final wild card spot in terms of both the American League and the National League? Because I think that that's going to be very interesting to gauge these next few weeks.
Yeah, and I think it's going to change quite a bit, and especially if you look at both leagues, it's pretty tight with regards to, who's number one in the wild card, who's number two. I know the Brewers have a 4-game lead over the Padres in the NL side of things, but you look at the American League, and all of these teams are kind of bunched up a little bit. This is kind of where I'm taking a look somewhat at the schedule, so, a little bit to kind of see who's got what coming up, because remember, as fast as these teams can stay in the race, that's as fast as they could maybe be sellers at the trade deadline. If the Red Sox come out of the trade deadline or come out of the All-Star break and lose the first 5 games, maybe they change their tune a little bit. Maybe Aroldis Chapman and some of these other people are available. So I know that the Red Sox have won 10 straight and they're playing good baseball right now, but things change in that week and a half before the trade deadline. And this is where I also like to try and find some value. Maybe somebody a little further back that maybe can make a push in terms of things like that. Like I'm looking at, I know the Orioles are 7.5 out, but we know the hitting is there for the Orioles. Maybe they shock everybody and they make that one pitching move that's going to get them a starting pitcher. I still really like the Rays. We talked about the last time I was on your show. The Rays always make that trade that it goes under the radar, but everybody's like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense for Tampa Bay. So they're the team that I'm going to kind of watch both in the division and the wild card. And if they make that right move, maybe they can kind of move to the top of things in that division.
Yep, and I do think that that's going to be a lot of fun to be taking a look at, and just what we're going to be getting in terms of those final wildcard spots is going to be so fascinating. As Matt Josephs, a.k.a. Mid-Major Matt, joining me on the Baseball Betting Show. And what else I think is going to be really interesting is the NL East race, because Matt, I know you're a little bit of a Philadelphia Phillies fan, and I know it's been a very interesting season for them. And how do you gauge what we're going to be getting out there in the NL East? NL East, where right now the Atlanta Braves are behind the Miami Marlins, which I never thought was possible at this time of year, but it's very clearly a 2-horse race between the Phillies and the Mets.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see what they do at the trade deadline. I mean, Dave Dombrowski has been a massive disappointment the last couple of years. I mean, some of the guys they've gotten, Rodolfo Castro, Carlos Estevez, some of these guys that he's made moves for have been massive disappointments. Now, the reports are the Phillies are actually going to make the serious move that they need to make, but I'll believe it when I see it. And look, the Phillies, this regular season doesn't really matter for the Phillies because we know how the playoffs go. They're either really hot or they're really cold. And when they're really cold, they'll lose games 2-1. And when they're really hot, they'll lose games 8-7. 8-7, it feels like. So the other side of things, the Mets just got Senga back and Minaya back in this last series against the Royals. So how are they going to look? How healthy is this rotation going to be? And is Clay Holmes going to be helpful come August and September? We're way past the innings amount that he's kind of looked at in terms of coming off of a year where he was a reliever. So how much longer are they gonna have him start and have somebody right behind him every single start like Tampa Bay is doing with Rasmussen? So the Mets lineup should be able to keep them in this race, but can the rotation stay healthy? Can everybody pitch well into August and September? We know the pedigree of a lot of these Phillies pitchers. They're really good throughout the regular season. We can't say the same thing for this Mets rotation.
Yeah, but with the New York Mets, I think that that's going to be so interesting, and I think it all comes down to the trade deadline and what they do there, because with the New York Mets, I do believe that they can perhaps overcome the pitching a little bit if they pick up guys at the trade deadline. And to your point about Clay Holmes perhaps not being able to go as long in the second half of the season, I think that's a fair argument. But I would actually say that Frankie Montas and Paul Blackburn have been downgrades ever since they've come into the rotation, as neither of these guys I've necessarily been bullish on throughout their careers, and both have been pretty awful thus far.
I wouldn't rely on either of those two. I mean, look, and they probably won't make the playoff rotation if this team makes the playoffs. They'll probably rely on Senga and Minaya, Holmes to some extent, Peterson, of course. So I don't know how much you're going to actually see those guys unless the Mets are up or down 7 or 8 runs. So yeah, I mean, that's the thing. When you look at the Phillies 4-5 and you look at the Mets 4-5, and then you look, the Phillies have Andrew Painter down in AAA that they could call up at some point. Mick Abel had 1 or 2 decent starts for the Phillies if they wanted to call him up. So there's some depth there for Philadelphia, as long as they don't have to use Taijuan Walker in the rotation, which is what they're going to do coming out of the All-Star break.
Yeah, but with Taijuan Walker, you just never know what you're going to get out of him, although he's actually had some halfway decent starts this far this season. I would not be banking on that moving forward, as we do have Matt Josephs, a.k.a. Major Matt, joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show. And just how are you taking a look at things in general league-wide? And is there a team or two that you're either feeling bullish or / bearish upon going into the second half of the season? Because I do think that it's been a little bit up-down all around what we've seen in terms of the Major League Baseball season thus far.
Well, I mentioned one. I mean, I'm bullish on the Rays. I just believe their general manager is just going to do something that flies under the radar. They're not going to get the best name out there. They're going to get somebody that fits what they need. And so I'm a huge fan of the Rays. And, I don't know necessarily what their playoff odds are, but I would take them to make the playoffs. There's a small part of me that still wants to believe that the Orioles are going to, do something. I know the rotation is just so bad, but that lineup is so good. And at times you watch them during these win streaks and you're like, this is the Orioles team we thought we were going to get before the season. And then you see these games where like Charlie Morton goes out there and some of the other guys, and you're like, oh yeah, that's why they are 43-52 and not doing better. In the National League, I mean, look, to me, it's the Reds. I think the Reds have a really good lineup. I think the Reds have enough starting pitching that they could get going. Of course, if Hunter Green comes back effective, I think that makes a huge deal. I'm done on trying to believe in the Braves. I heard today that they said, Marcell Ozuna and Raisel Iglesias are available. The one team I'm not as huge of a fan of is the Giants. Look, I think the Giants have a solid rotation. I don't think their lineup is necessarily good enough. I know Devers was a huge addition, but I don't necessarily think it's good enough. Maybe they overtake a team like the Mets or something like that, but I'm not a believer in the Giants, so I kind of like the Reds a little bit more if I was looking for a team on the outside looking in.
Yeah, playing with the Cincinnati Reds, I think that they're an intriguing team, and with the Reds, they do have some really good pitching. And how much do you take a look at things right now in Major League Baseball in terms of teams that might be successful for 162 games versus teams that might be successful for a 5 or 7 game series? Because I look at a team like the Giants, if they make the playoffs, I think that they are very much a team that could be built to be able to make a deep playoff run with having Logan Webb, Robbie Ray and company at the top of the rotation. But I think the question becomes, can they make the playoffs?
Exactly. Can they make the playoffs? I mean, that's the thing. Like if Hunter Green comes back and you can throw a Hunter Green and a Chase Burns maybe and a Brady Singer, that's not a bad 1, 2, 3 if you're the Reds. But of course, you have to get Hunter Green healthy. I saw that he had a minor league rehab start shut down recently, so that's not good. I mean, look, Arizona, if they don't trade some of their veteran types, they have a decent top of the line starting pitching. It's just everything kind of around them has been a little bit of a disaster. So when you're kind of handicapping these teams, as you said, if you can throw out there 4 or 5 starting pitchers that are competent, that means you're going to do really well in the regular season. If you can throw out 3 really good starting pitchers, that means you're going to be really good in the postseason. That's why I feel like the Yankees probably need another really good starting pitcher. They've got the lineup. They've got a pretty good bullpen, but they just need one more ace to go along with Rodon and Fried. I do not like what I've seen from Will Warren lately. I don't think Will Warren's great. I certainly don't want to trust Marcus Stroman. I feel like I'm forgetting who the 5th guy is for the Yankees, but he's certainly not an ace like the other 2. So I feel like the Yankees need to go out and get top-end starting pitching to go with Fried. That's right. Exactly. That's right. And yes, they had Clark Schmidt. I would have felt a little bit better about Clark Schmidt. Of course, he's having Tommy John. So the Yankees need a top-end starting pitcher, or else they're going to play a lot of 5-game series, because after the first 2 games, they're going to be in a little bit of a trouble.
Yep, absolutely. That is a interesting last name, by the way, for the New York Yankees. So we were going to see what our old Schlittler is going to be doing for the New York Yankees, and that is a team I think is going to have a lot of fascination here in the second half of the season, and there is going to be a lot of headlines to take a look at, Matt. I know you're getting set for what is going to be a tremendous second half of the season. This is probably a few days of a little bit more rest than normal. I don't think that you're going to take the full day off, because I know you're getting set for college football. I know you've still got your radio shows, what have you, but I think for most of us, it's a little bit of a breather, but let the good people at home know it's all on tap for you and how people can follow along on social media to other platforms.
Yeah, this is kind of the time that I go over my K-pop spreadsheet and kind of take a look at some trends and things like that. Make sure I edit the mistakes. There's times where I might have put a win instead of a loss or things like that. So it's really tightening things up. And as you said, this is the time that I'm really kind of dialing in on college football. We have SEC Media Days coming up this week. So obviously there'll be a lot coming out of there. And it's just kind of getting ready for college football, the NFL, and of course college basketball. That never stops. We're getting non-conference schedules coming out, and there's always transfers and things like that. So the sports world never stops. But if anybody ever has any questions about first threes, first fives, player props, pitcher props, anything like that, things that Greg may not be able to handle, you can follow me on Twitter at MidMajorMatt, because we all have one goal. We all want to beat the books.
Absolutely. And Matt does a great job of being able to find value in so many different ways. And every single time he joins this show, he lends such great insight. So big thanks to Matt for joining me on the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. And coming next, it is that darn podcast. I give you my picks and analysis for the Home Run Derby as we touch them all.
This is an ad by Regain Couples Therapy. Let's be honest, loving your partner doesn't mean you always like them, and guess what? That's normal. Regain offers couples therapy that's flexible, affordable, and 100% online. Whether you're reconnecting or working through conflict, Regain is here to support you both. See why people wish they'd try couples therapy sooner. Visit regain.com/couplespod to get 10% off your first month. That's regain.com/couplespod.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by Matt Josephs, aka Mid-Major Matt. Every single time he joins me, he lends such great insights. He did so once again today, so a big thanks to Matt for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast that I give you my picks and analysis for the Home Run Derby as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter/X feed at gunit_81. And we are going to be just looking at these 8 guys in terms of their odds to be able to win the Home Run Derby. I'm just going to be utilizing DraftKings odds here. Always shop around accordingly, because there are some places that are going to give you a little bit of a better, a little bit of a worse line there. So it all depends upon the numbers and not the actual player itself. You always want to be betting the best of it. So how about if we do dive in and we take a look at what we've got in terms of the odds to be able to win the Home Run Derby. My write-up was on Matt Olson, who's currently at 8-1. I'll dive into that in a minute, but currently at DraftKings, the favorite is Cal Raleigh, plus 395. O'Neal Cruz is plus 320. James Wood is plus 475. Olson's 8-1. Plus 850 on Brent Rooker. Byron Buxton is plus 950. Jazz Chisholm 11-1, and Junior Caminero, he's in at 12-1 as well. And if you do take a look at FanDuel and what they've got as well, so we're going to give you guys 2 different sets of odds just to be able to compare as to how these are sort of a little bit different from place to place. Like Cal Raleigh is plus $3 over at FanDuel. Junior Caminero is at north of 10-1 over at DraftKings. He's actually at plus 950 here. Matt Olson is 9-1. Byron Buxton is plus 850, plus $4 on James Wood. O'Neal Cruz, He's currently at plus 330, and for some reason, I think that there's two guys that are currently left off the board. But that said, yes, Brent Rooker is at 10-1, and Jazz Chisholm is at 14-1. So that does make things very interesting for Jazz Chisholm. I would need at least a plus 1127 to be able to take a shot there, but reason why I did write up Matt Olson, which I mean across the board you're getting at least plus a 750 on him, is that he for one is going to be competing in his home ballpark. He is going to be competing out there in Atlanta, and for two, he's the only guy in the field that has Derby experience, and I think that that's going to be very impactful in this exhibition because I mean a lot of other guys, they just don't know how to be able to really make it through all these rounds. Sometimes they tire themselves out a little bit too early, and that's a big reason why I set Cal Raleigh at a plus 333, so no value at 3-1, plus 290 or anything like that. And Oneil Cruz, I recognize that he's a hard hitter, but plus 614 is what I set him at. I do think that he's a guy with some relatively good stamina that can make it deep in this event. I just fear that he might be so young that he hypes himself up. He has a really good first round, and then he just completely goes down the toilet bowl. For Byron Buxton, he's a guy that I just feel like he's got a relatively good body, but I feel like he might be a guy that breaks down a little bit towards the back half of this event as well. I set at a plus 720. Junior Caminero actually has a little bit of value as well. If you want to add a second guy, I set him at a plus 652, so being able to get north of like a 9-1, I think would be fine as well. For James Wood, he was my longest shot at plus 1393. He's had a really nice season for the Washington Nationals, but I do take a look at James Wood, and I do feel a little bit suspect about how he's going to be able to compete in this sort of event. And you're going to notice that this is an event that, I mean, it is very much an exhibition, and there are 2 days on this podcast where I give out pretty much content, and it's not really the stuff that I'm betting. This is going to be one of them, and then the other game is the All-Star game. I personally just do not bet exhibitions. I do this for you guys, so I do want to be transparent with you guys there. So, I mean, there's that aspect of things, but certainly if I'm taking a look at anything right now, I do think that with Matt Olson having that ballpark familiarity, he's going to be actually pitched to by a guy that was a former catcher as well. As he's going to be pitched to by Eddie Perez. He spent quite a bit of time at the big league level there, and that's something that you do want to be talking about, and that's something that you do want to be looking at. Who's pitching to these guys? Like with Jazz Chisholm, even though I see a little bit of value at like 14-1 because I set him at a plus 1127, he's going to have his stepdad pitch to him. He's not used to throwing batting practice, unlike some of these MLB coaches, unlike what you're going to be getting out of someone like Matt Olson. I think that Cal Raleigh has his dad throwing to him, which I mean that's a nice, inspiring story, but I do think that is worth just taking note of a little bit in this sort of event. So that's a big reason why I landed where I did there. And for Brent Rooker, I set him at plus 1182. He's had a solid season for the Oakland A's and has been a nice power hitter over the last few years, but I mean it is a case where Sacramento, I think, is warping his numbers a little bit. He had good numbers with Oakland last year. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. This is a guy that's able to hit on the road, but I don't know if he's necessarily built for this sort of event as well. So I mean, I wish I had more analytics on this. I think that people are there trying to tell you, oh, I'm the most Mona Lisa Vito of handicapping the home run derby. Well, it's not going to do them a lot of good because you only get one every 365/366 days, but that's where I landed with regards to home run derby. So hopefully you guys had some fun there, and if you do like hearing from this fine podcast, Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever your podcast, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one or two ways we offer those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, letters CM, Amy does not matter, so per usual, please do send these into the timeline. And the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. And then from there, you're able to fire on whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. And I'm with you guys every single day throughout the regular season on this podcast, and I'll be back with you guys once again tomorrow. Thank you so much.
This is an ad by Regain Couples Therapy. Let's be honest. Loving your partner doesn't mean you always like them, and guess what? That's normal. Regain offers couples therapy that's flexible, affordable, and 100% online. Whether you're reconnecting or working through conflict, Regain is here to support you both. See why people wish they'd try couples therapy sooner. Visit regain.com/couplespod to get 10% off your first month. That's regain.com/couplespod.